Part 2 of this 2012 Ford Focus. Recharging, evacuating with a single hose, recharging with a single hose, as if you did not have gauges, could not afford gauges. You actually could do this if you knew what you were doing and you had at least a good scale. No vacuum gauge, no pressure, no temperature gauges. If everything was in pristine, perfect condition, you can evacuate and recharges with no gauges at all, nothing more than a scale, and get it right on the money and be perfect. But that's if everything is perfect, ideal conditions, and the system is operating, functioning perfectly. You're not diagnosing, you're just doing a recharge. You actually need no gauges at all whatsoever, just a very accurate scale. So here from video part 1, I told you this system had a broken pipe for 2 years exposed to the atmosphere. This system is completely moisture saturated. I went away to another job. It's about an hour and a half later. I already have the refrigerant hooked up to a hose. I have a shutoff valve right here. This hose was always evacuated, charged with nitrogen, and or left on the tank. So it's filled with refrigerant, ready to go. And as you see here, the microns are increasing. It's not because there's a leak, it's because the moisture content is in here. This has been going back and forth, but steadying out somewhere around the 600 point. If you let this sit for a few more hours, and the car has been running, it's already hot, so I tried to evacuate it, heating up, engine closed, recycle heat inside on defrost, trying to bake and boil out the evaporator. But still, I was unable to get the moisture out of the refrigerant. It would have to be left on overnight to reduce the moisture content. I said reduce, not completely eliminate, to reduce. A vacuum pump would have to be left overnight. I already swept the system with nitrogen. That just helped minutely, just because the quantity of water saturated in the oil is so great, could not be removed. And you could read that on a micron gauge. The micron gauge is right now at 16. If I let this sit for several more hours, it would probably raise somewhere around 2,700, 3,000, 3,400, somewhere around there, and then it would flatten out and stop. And it's not because of a leak, it's because of the water vapor actually boiling off out of the oil, raising the pressure, just like a steam kettle or a steam pot. If you put your finger over a steam kettle, it raises, other than burning your finger, it would raise pressure inside the pot. Same thing is happening here. Water is literally exploding out into a steam, making a pressurized gas, raising the pressure, and that's what you could read with one of these. You can never read that on an analog gauge, not possible. So that tells me that the system is extremely saturated with moisture, which can cause drivability problems with your, not drivability, but air conditioning operational problems. On warmer days under right conditions, it literally can freeze up after the expansion valve, causing intermittent, sometimes it cools, sometimes it doesn't situation. You could look that up and read about it, and it does happen. It is a situation that happens, and you can actually read it and document and prove it because you have the knowledge and the gauges to do so. So I'm going to charge this up. As you can see, the valve has been backed off, and so there is no vacuum being pulled. I'm just reading the steady increasing on here. So let's pull that off. I will open up this gauge so I don't pull in air when I recover this gauge off of here. As you see, it went to high pot. That means atmospheric. Okay, so now let's do this all one-handed. So now the only air I have trapped in there is between this valve and this fitting. So let's do a little, okay, doing this one-handed, I might get more than I want. That's more than I want. Okay, did you see that little puff? So the refrigerant has flushed out the system. The refrigerant literally backed up into here just a little bit with a little liquid refrigerant and purged out the system. So this line has no air in it. and this line was filled with refrigerant. And so we have the scale. Let's zero it, calibrate it. Let's use a glove to determine it's working, and it is working, and it is measuring. And we want 600 grams, and we do have that backed off. So right now, if I had no refrigerant gauges on here, you just have to assume you have a good vacuum because you have a brand new clean dry system if you were doing this. And let's open up this valve. Now I just opened up this to this. This is easier the meter than this is. So now, and that little bit of refrigerant that just tossed up into here just was 10 grams of refrigerant from here to here. So now let's go in. Get that back where it was. Still 10 grams. There we go. We are now going in. And as you can see, we're already 400 grams, 500 grams. I turned it off. Let's get a little more in there. I'm metering it in. Okay, that's it. That 5 grams will stay behind as a vapor form inside the hoses. We are now full, and you see how fast that was. That's all it should take. If you did a good vacuum and you're doing everything to follow and beat the gas laws because you actually know what they mean and how to compensate for things and get it done, your systems will always charge with one hose within 30 to 60 seconds. If you didn't do it right, you won't be able to do that. You'll be one of the guys running it and trying to make it suck down the low side. There is no need for that. That does not need to be done. So let's get the rest of this out of here. Close that off. I know this is under high pressure in here, and I know this system is under a low pressure than what this tank is. And I will be using all wireless Bluetooth probes on this on my PDA or your laptop or your phone. So I'll be able to hook up. Here's the temperature sensors. Here's the temperature sensors for refrigerant temperature. And here are the pressure sensors that will connect to these fittings right here and give me the wireless data back, and I could record it, and I take a snapshot with the AC in operation, and it goes to the customer's invoice to prove what all the temperature and pressure readings are, the humidity, empathy, the efficiency, the BTU output. So it proves what the vehicle was operating like at the time it was being tested while it was in your bay, and that goes with your receipt to go with the customer. So you prove exactly what it was doing at the time that you recharged it, including a temperature snapshot and humidity of the day. Go to your weather report for your local area, take a snapshot of that. That goes on the invoice too, because that makes a difference. All right, let me stop this video right here, and so I can put this down and get the car started and everything.